Well, today I'm gonna actually make a pen out of this pen blank that we created, or I created in the previous video. It's kind of got that nice orange, red, and yellow swirl, kind of fiery looking. Anyway, not sure what kind of pen it's gonna make, but this is the Alumilite Clear Slow. First time I'm using it, so I want to see how it turns. So that's the next video. Okay, so today we're going to be making a standard gold slimline pen kit. I happen to get this one from Rockler, and fairly straightforward. It does take 2 pen tubes. So the first step in making a pen is to grab those tubes. I'm just going to take everything out of this package. There's the these are 7mm tubes, and we'll need to cut the blank to size. Now, if you watch some of my previous videos, you realize that my initial mold that I made was actually a little too big. For some reason, I think I mismeasured or transposed something, but I made this blank just about an inch too long. So I've got to cut off quite a bit of it here. But okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap on each end of the tube, because when I drill it, if it chips out, it's usually when the drill bit either is entering or exiting, and mostly when it's exiting the acrylic. So it's always nice to have a little bit extra that you can trim off the unnecessary bits. So 2 things. One is make sure you leave that little bit of extra. I do about 1/4 inch on either side of the tube. Hopefully you can see that, and make a mark. The other thing I do is I put a cross mark in here, so that it's more important with wood grain, but you can do it with acrylic too. When these 2 pieces go together in the new pen, sometimes it's nice to line up the grain pattern or the color pattern. Now this tells you which ends go together when you're turning it on the mandrel. So I'm going to mark the second one here, since this blank is way too long. So there we go. So that's scrap, and we have 2 pieces. These are just eyeballs. We're going to trim them to size in the next step. Okay, so now we're going to trim this pen blank that I just marked up, and I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to get it as square as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and use a miter just to run it through there kind of straight. All right, here we go. So there we go. We got our trimmed piece. So far so good. Didn't fall apart on us. Everything still looks pretty good on it. They're about the same size. This one's a little bit longer. I could probably trim that end off just to make them the same size, but it doesn't really matter. Next step is drilling. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to drill these 2 pieces of the blank that I cut to fit the 2 tubes. Got a nice swirl pattern in the middle there. It's kind of cool. So there's a few things involved here. I'm going to use this vise. It's a pen blank. It's specifically made for pen blanks, and I'm going to show you how to set it up and how to use it. Okay, so I cleaned out my vise. I've got it back here. Just lock it down the rest of the way. So my drill head is locked in the down position with this little thumb screw thing here. And now my vise is clamped around the drill. Basically the jaws of the vise have a little V cut in each side, so it's perfect for grabbing circular things or square things at an angle on the edges. So I've locked that down. Then I'm just going to use some of these little clamps here to basically clamp this sucker right where it is. So that's not going to move. That's in good shape. Release the clamp. And I'm going to take it all the way out so that I can get my pen blank in there. And then release your drill head so that it goes all the way down. I'm right-handed, so it's a lot easier to do this way. Okay. Now it is important to note your table on your drill press, or whatever you're using to drill, should be level and at a perfect 90-degree angle to your drill bit, so that the hole when drilled isn't going to go off at some strange angle. My table is a little bit off. I built this table and clamped it to the metal table that's underneath here. Unfortunately, that metal table doesn't have any adjustment to it, and it's a little bit off, and so I just kind of deal with it the way it is, and I know that it's off, so I just, you know, account for that in everything I do. So basically, that line that I drew on these things to cut them and to keep the orientation correct, I use that to orientate these in the vise itself, so that I'm cutting, even if it's off center slightly, both of them are going to be off basically the same way. And then I clamp this down pretty good. You don't want it slipping or anything. You notice that I did it at an angle so that the corners are in those little V slots. And then just turn on your drill press. And here we go. So there we go. Some nice shavings. I always like to look at this because it tells me something about the consistency of the acrylic. We'll lock this back out of the way. I made this drill press table, by the way. Tracks I got from Rockler, clamps, and then this drill press fence also. And then I just got some lumber from, I think, Home Depot that had this white Melmac or whatever it is on here. Okay, so I have my hole built, hole drilled. My blank is not perfectly square. I could have sanded this down to make it square, but that's good enough. We're going to turn it on the lathe and it's going to, you know, round it off, and most of the outside stuff's going to be gone anyway. So I'm going to put this one in the exact same way, which I had the line kind of going to the right. We'll clamp this down again, nice and tight. There we go. Cut the second one. There we go. All the way through. Didn't chip out, which is good on either side. This one did not chip out on either side. Well, we're in good shape. So now we're going to go to the glue up stage. I'm going to glue the tubes into the blanks, and then we're going to square off the blanks. So we're going to do a couple things. Well, a couple things. We're going to glue these tubes into these two pieces of pen blank. A couple of things, you need gloves, or I need gloves, otherwise I get super glue all over my fingers and I stick to everything. I'm using CA medium stick fast glue. I do have the accelerator, but I usually don't use it. I don't know, I've had varying results. You need something to rough up the surface of these tubes. I'm just using 100 grit sandpaper. Some people use 220 grit. My sandpaper is pretty used. This is a tube insertion tool. Probably needs work, but basically you stick the tube on here, you put the glue on, and then you can stick the tube into your pen blank with the glue on without getting it on your fingers too much. I don't know if you noticed, but That tube goes through there fairly easily. I'm not sure I like that. I wonder if it's my pen or my drill bit might be a little too big, but that is a 7mm drill bit. Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to put on my gloves and then get started. These are the same gloves I used in the previous video, which was actually casting this these blanks, or this blank. There we go. So, first things first, I'm going to rough this up. Probably could have done that without gloves. Basically, I like to go in two directions, spin it and go up and down, and then flip it over, do the same thing on the other end to make sure it's got full coverage. Make sure the ends are good. That looks good. Let's do the other one. We are going to do both of these pen blanks, or both of these halves at the same time. We're going to glue them up. I like to let them sit. So I've had issues in the past with these tubes breaking free on me when I'm cutting the acrylic on the lathe. I've had it more with acrylic than I do with wood. So there we go. These are nice and scuffed up. I don't know, I assume you can see that. And that gives something for the glue to adhere to. This CA glue that I've been using for a while now. I've just got a little bit left in the bottom. This is the medium size, it's CA glue medium. It's also the medium size bottle that you can get that I bought. I actually bought that at Rockler. So I'm going to set that like there. So two things. One is I like to put some glue in the blank first to make sure that both ends of the blank have glue on them. I think sometimes, and I'm not stingy with the glue, I think sometimes the ends don't get enough glue. So I'd rather overglue than underglue. So twist as you're putting it in, pull it in and out. I like to do that, and I like to actually go from the other end. And then what I do is the end that has the mark, where it's got to joint to the other one, I leave the blank or the tube fairly close to the end of the blank. I'll wipe off some of this excess on both sides. So the other end is the one that's going to get the trimming. So we'll set this aside for right now, and we'll do the other one. Same process. I'm going to put glue on both sides. It also helps if you can see what you're doing. There we go. Hopefully these cameras are showing what I'm doing here. I'm going to stick this on here. I do need to fix this tool. It's got some buildup over all of the uses. Whoops. I've not had problems with these tubes coming apart or coming loose in wood, only in acrylic. I think it's because wood is more porous and it tends to take the glue a little bit better. All right, same process. I'm sticking. So here we go. Paper towels are cheap. And it doesn't really matter if your paper towel sticks to this, because you're gonna cut it on the lathe anyway. That outside is not gonna be there. So I just don't want it sticking to my table. So there we go. Those are now glued, and I'm gonna let them sit for a while. Put my cap back on. All right, put my tool away, put my sandpaper away. I just keep it up here on my bench. All right, my I'm ready to just let this cure now for a little bit. I'm probably going to leave it for about an hour. I just don't want to chance it. And then once I'm done, after the hour, I will spray both ends with the accelerator, with the activator. I don't know. It works. It gets, you know, it sticks immediately, but I feel like it crystallizes it too. And I'm not sure if that's the case or if that's just my imagination. But so I like to wait. I like to let the glue cure by itself, and then I spray it just in case there's any extra in there. And then I am going to, since I did not seal the ends of that tube, a lot of people, some people, will take those tubes and they'll put plumber's putty or wax or something on the ends of that of the tube, so the glue doesn't get down in there. I don't do that. I'm going to use this bit I actually purchased, I think, I got a couple of them. One came in a kit and one I bought standalone. And it has all the different sizes, and it's got the part that trims the blank to the copper insert and makes it perfectly square and all that good stuff. And it also cleans out the inside of the copper at the same time. So I'm going to use that, and hopefully that will be everything we need. Okay. So this stuff has been sitting here for a little while. It still doesn't feel completely dry. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this. I spray both ends. And let it sit there. Don't like the smell of that stuff. So definitely needs cleaning out. Some super glue did get on the inside of the tubes, so I am going to run the reamer through there. So that's the next step. This is the trimmer I was talking about. This part obviously goes down inside the tube, and this is the 7mm one, so it fits perfectly inside that tube. It's got kind of a cutter on the end of it, so it clears out the tube, and then this cutter squares off the blank with the tube. So between the two, you should end up with a pretty nice square end result. So I'm going to put this, I'm just going to use this sucker to hold my blank. And I'm sure I'm in the way of this camera, but okay. Oh well. And then I'm just going to stick this. I think I'm going to stick that down in there. So it's definitely going down in there. I'm going to clean this out a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the bit itself is pretty plugged up from all the times I've used it. How are we doing? Okay. There we go. So I'm going to flip this over And I'm going to do just a little bit on this side. You just want to make sure that the end of the little copper tube is bright. That means that you've cut down far enough. Okay, so I'm going to mount my blank on this pen mandrel here. And then I have the Slimline pen or 7mm spacers that go on the mandrel. I grab the blank, and again, the point of the line was to be able to line this back up once it's on the mandrel here. So I put a spacer on, one piece, spacer, another piece, making sure that those lines are facing each other like they're supposed to, another spacer, and then the knob here. This is actually an adjustable mandrel. You can adjust size of it, so you can actually just turn one half of this without having to have a whole bunch of spacers and stuff. The other thing I'm going to do is pull my end stop right up against it there. I'm probably going to cut this, or try to cut this around 2000 RPM. Get my tool rest in there. And you want to get your tool rest as close as you can, of course without touching. The reason is there's less chance of your tool grabbing and going down and hitting, you know, breaking apart your acrylic. So there we go. So we're all set. Again, I've never turned this before, so I'm actually going to put a face shield on just in case things get out of hand. And I'm going to use this Easy Wood Tools negative rake carbide tool. That's a CI2. And this is a pretty good pen turning tool. It's a little bit bigger than most pen tools that you get out there. Most of them look more like this, little tiny thing. I prefer it slightly larger, but these guys are a little too large. This is a full-size Pro version of this tool, which is great for roughing wood and large items. It does a great job. So here we go. Take a look at that. Now I do not have the vacuum running just because of the noise, and wanted to be able to talk to you while I'm doing this. Obviously it's still not round, it's still quite a bit square. A few little bubbles, but overall not too bad. I'm going to keep going. Kind of keep this tool parallel to the ground. I might be lifting it up one way or another, but you want it as parallel as possible. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure. My front hand is just guiding it, it's not really holding it. My back hand is really just holding it here, so if it grabs it's not going to go shooting, but it's not a lot of pressure going on here. And when you're cutting this, just approach it really slowly and just, you're knocking down those corners until you get it round. And you can feel it and hear it. You know, you can tell it's not round yet. It's still fairly large, so hopefully, let's take a look at it here. Yeah, there's like a bubble or something there. Interesting. Well, we'll keep going. The only thing I don't like about this adjustable pen mandrel is this piece right here is kind of a knuckle buster. If you're not careful when you're working the tool or sanding, sometimes you'll forget about this and it'll hit, whereas the other pen mandrels don't have this lock nut mechanism, so they're kind of smooth there. So even if you touch it, it's not gonna, you know, bust your knuckles up, but anyway. Oh yeah, much better. So what I'm doing is I'm feeling the lip around the bushings, and there's a little bit of a lip there, which is fine. I don't mind taking off a little bit of lip of that remaining stuff with the sandpaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I'm going to start out with 150 grit, and then I'm going to go all the way down to 600 grit in 5 steps, and kind of get this down to where I want it. And I'm going to move my tool rest out of the way. And I'm going to turn on my dust collection for this next step, just because I don't want the air getting filled with sawdust. So I've got two things. I got my dust collection system sitting right here behind the lathe. And then I also have an air cleaner on the roof, up the ceiling of my shop here, that circulates the air, I don't know, 5 to 7 times, I think, an hour, or maybe more. So I'm going to turn that on right now. Get that going. So there's the air cleaner, and I'm going to turn on the dust collection. And let's clean this up. Okay, starting with 150 grits. So this should take it the rest of the way down. The other thing you want to do is, with each grit, you also want to go long ways on your piece to take out those circular scratches, rotational marks, if you will, from sanding with it running. So this knocks those down. And you want to do this with every grit as you go through them. I'm going to there are no chips. There are no visible bubbles at this stage. There were a couple as I was cutting the outer pieces, but the inner acrylic seems to be in fairly good condition. So I'm taking out the pieces to put this pen together, and I'm laying them out the way that they're going to go. So the first piece you put on when you're pressing a pen together, once you get all these pieces out of these little tiny plastic bags, two more pieces and we're good here. This all comes in the kit, the Slimline Pen Kit from Rockler. If you've never turned a pen before, it's pretty easy. This video shows all the steps, basically. This is the mechanism. This gets pushed in, and then this is the actual cartridge. Okay, so the way this works is these are just compression fits. People use clamps to do that. I've seen people use a vise to do this. I actually have a wall-mounted pen thing to put these together with, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to actually turn the cameras off and turn them so you can actually see that in action. So this is my wall-mounted pen press. The way this works is it's got some spacers in there. This just compression fits things. So I'm going to take a couple of the spacers out. I've got the pen tip, and I've got the pen, and I'm going to put the pen tip in this lower part, the pen barrel kind of stuck as best I can on the pen tip, and I'm going to use this to just push it together. There we go. Doesn't take much, and it's now compression fit on the end of that barrel, and you can see it's fairly nice and flush because those bearings tell you how far to take the acrylic down to fit the parts. Okay, let's get the next part here. Next part we're going to do is the cap, and we're going to do something very similar here. I think I'm going to put the cap down. Actually, I'm going to do the cap up. Now you can do this with or without this clip. I chose to do it with the clip. So there you go. The top part now is compressed fit into the top part of the barrel. The cap's compressed fit into the barrel. So now we're going to put the mechanism in the bottom half. Now I think this one's going to take a couple more spacers. So the nice thing about this bottom is it has a hole in it, so the tip of the pen fits nicely in there. So this barrel actually has a line on it, and you just push it in to that line. And that's supposed to be the perfect fit. So there's the barrel. That's the actual mechanism that when you turn the top, it makes the pen come in and out. It's got screw threads in the inside of it. So you take the pen cartridge, stick it through there, screw it in. Now when you turn it, you can see that the pen tip comes out. And then you just push the top and the bottom parts together. And because we lined these up, they should go right in. And there you go. Okay, so in my haste to get this put together, I forgot to put this little ring on there. The ring actually goes just over the mechanism here and goes down. That's it. It actually doesn't fit tight. It's movable. And they sell fancy versions of it, so if you want something fancier than the one it came with, you know, you can do that. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out how this goes together again. I'm going to say it goes something like that. So there we go. That is the finished pen. A little bright for my taste, but some people probably will like it. It actually, for my first casting with this Alumilite Clear Slow, it looks pretty nice. I think next time I'll put something in there so that the barrel of the pen itself doesn't show through. I know I said when I was doing this I probably wouldn't make it into a pen, but there you go, I made it. So now there's something I can say, yeah, this is my first Alumilite Clear Slow pen. Thank you for watching.